Welcome back, everyone, to Neuroalchemy, where science meets soul and where healing becomes multidimensional, intuitive, and profoundly possible. I'm Dr. Sarah Young. Here on Neuroalchemy, we define things as if you're hearing them for the very first time because clarity creates safety, and safety opens the door for more healing possibilities. Today, I'm joined by Fitz Kohler. Fitz is a nationally recognized fitness expert, author, media personality, and a cancer survivor. She's spent decades helping people understand how movement, nutrition, recovery, and mindset work together in ways that are sustainable, empowering, and grounded in real life. And what I appreciate about Fitz's work is her emphasis on agency without pressure and strength without self-punishment. Her approach invites people to reconnect with their bodies in ways that feel supportive rather than overwhelming. Fitz, we're really glad to have you here today.
Dr. Sarah, thank you for having me on your show. I'm excited to chat with you and all your listeners.
Before we dive in, I always like to start here. How are you arriving today, either physically, emotionally, or energetically?
I am on cloud freaking nine. I am happy. I feel fit, totally energized. I've got so much good stuff going on in my life. And there's been a little loss. I lost my best friend of 16 and a half years, my dog recently, but still life is wonderful. I will live every day as fabulously as she would have wanted me to. So I'm grateful. I'm always grateful to be here and I feel spectacular. I'm sorry you have the sniffles. That's no fun.
Thank you. Yes, I was telling her before we got started today that I've come down with some type of flu or COVID or whatever, but we're going to push forward and we're really going to enjoy our time together. And I'm so sorry to hear about your loss as well. That's rough.
Yeah. Piper, she was, the best friend I ever had. And I had her almost 17 years. And it was because we focused so much on her health, high quality nutrition, and through her whole life, 2 to 3 miles a day. The only time she ever became a little stagnant and she put on a little weight was when I was sick, when I had cancer, because she wouldn't leave my side. But if you take great care of yourself, we got as many great days as we could have out of her. And her loss is pretty prominent in our home right now. But still, life is wonderful. Life is wonderful.
And as we begin, what do you hope most listeners will take away from our conversation today?
Gosh, how much control they have, how much complete control they have over their body, their mind. It's interesting how people start saying, like in their 40s, I'm old. Balderdash, you're not old. In fact, when you're 80, you'll look back and think, oh my God, I was just a baby, right? And so, folks, if you could be the younger person complaining about how old you feel, or you could be the older person bragging about how young you feel. And so, if you take simple measures for your body and your mind, every freaking day can be better. You can age backwards. You can be stronger, more vital, more energized, sleeping better, looking better, performing your best, better next year and 10 years from now than you were yesterday. And so do that because life is short and I have simple tools. I have simple tools. There are simple steps to get you to do that. So, let's supercharge everybody, right?
That is so exciting. Before we get into your story, I want to pause and define some of the terms we'll be exploring throughout this episode. So I'll ask you to help us define each one as it comes up in your own words. To start, when people hear the phrase mind body connection, how might you define that?
Well, they're interconnected inextricably. There's no way to have one without the other. If you do not have a healthy body, there is no way you could have a healthy mind. It's absolutely impossible. If you are not fit, if you are not energized, if you're not putting in the time and effort with exercise and nutrition, you're inevitably going to sleep poorly. You're going to have the aches and pains. You're going to be miserable and depressed based off the fact that your body's not functioning well. And on the flip side, if you are anxious or depressed and that is causing a loss of sleep and you're not able to make good decisions for your health, well, then your body's going to suffer. So they go hand in hand. It's required. Gosh, if you again take simple steps, it doesn't have to cost you any money at all. You just put a priority and emphasis on mental health and an emphasis on physical health, both of those freebies put together will make you unstoppable.
And when you talk about fitness, what does that mean to you?
Well, fitness is very specific. There are four pillars of fitness: strength, cardio, flexibility, and balance. You need all four to qualify as a fit person. So I work in the running industry. I'm a professional race announcer, 30 something weekends a year. I'm out there hosting tens of thousands of athletes who run or walk. And it's shocking to me how many people will cross the finish line of a full marathon and not qualify as fit. So, fit is the way you train your body. It can't just be you can't just do one thing. You can't just do yoga. If you're a yoga person, you can stand on one foot and do all sorts of crazy things, but you can't walk up a flight of stairs. You're not fit, right? If you can do a marathon, but you can't do 5 push-ups, are you really fit? If you're a bodybuilder and you can't touch your toes, are you fit? You're not. So those four pillars of fitness are necessary. And again, if folks spend just a little bit of time on each moving forward, they will achieve this greatness within their body they had no idea was possible.
And how's that different from what most people might think about as health?
Well, health is accumulation of all of these things. It's the way you move your body, it's what you put in your body, how you fuel it, and then of course your mental health. So, to be healthy, you have to have some proficiency in all three categories. And I'm going to add one: sleep. Sleep is the necessary for sure.
We'll also be talking today about recovery. How would you define recovery beyond just rest or taking time off?
Recovery is allowing your body and mind to recover from the pressures you've put upon it, and whatever that means to you. So for someone who does a lot of weightlifting, maybe recovery for them means going for a 4-mile walk outside with their dogs. It's just a little bit of a take time to heal and recharge. I think recovery is more of a recharge over, right?
And finally, we'll touch on longevity. When you use that word, what do you mean by it in a way that feels realistic and human?
Yeah, so living long sounds really great, but it's not unless you are also living really well. And so I've historically spoken to youth groups throughout my career, elementary schools, high schools, and I say, who would like to get to 80 and 90? And all the hands enthusiastically go up, and I say, okay, who would like to get to 80 or 90 and be stuck in your chair or stuck in bed without being able to go to the places you want and do the things you want to do? And all the hands go down, right? So and I say, who wants to be the breakdancing grandpa and the breakdancing grandma? And they all go wild. And so, getting old should be great. It's something we should be striving for, but you have to put in effort to make sure those golden years are great, or you're going to get there. And as we've seen with many of our parents and grandparents, there could be a lot of suffering. And, the last thing you want to do is have your entire grandiose life ended because you tripped and you broke your hip. Right. And so that's so preventable. We could get our parents and grandparents doing things now that could tack years onto their life by working on balance. So yeah, longevity, it's length of life and more importantly, quality of life.
I love that you are also talking to kids because part of what I do for a living is I work with the geriatric
Oh
population.
boy.
And, when they get to that place where they're already sick, they've already broken the hip, they've already let these chronic disease processes pile up. To them, it can feel quite impossible. But, I think we should always start from where we're at, right? There's
That's it.
always an opportunity, regardless of where you at, regardless of wherever you are, there's always an opportunity to make that next best choice toward your health and well-being and going forward.
Yeah, there are zero people on earth who can't do better. You just can do better. And better isn't whatever you're seeing on TV when the Olympians, better is 1% better every day. Can you eat healthier food? Can you challenge your body just a bit more? Can you prioritize sleep? Can you do these little practices that improve our mental health? And so the answer is yes, for every single one of us. We can all do better.
And so with that shared language in place, let's talk about you for a minute. Can you take us back to what originally drew you into this world of fitness and health?
Yeah, so I was a scrappy little kid, played sports. I don't think I was great at any sport, but that's what my family did. So soccer, t-ball, speed skating, you name it. And when I was about 14, I blew my knee out playing soccer. I had a MCL repair and some other issues. And before I went to surgery, the doctor prescribed me physical therapy. I got into that and I thought, wow, I kind of like this. This could be a cool career. I like the gym environment. I like the helping people. I thought maybe that. And then post surgery, I went back to physical therapy, and that PT started like picking at my wound. And I thought, oh, that's disgusting. I can never do that. So medical practices were off the table for me. But that PT thankfully told my mom, get her signed up at a gym and get her, keep her strength training, or she will re-injure this knee. And so I joined Spa Lady, the women's fitness center in Fort Lauderdale. And I started going at 14. My mom had to lie for me to get that membership to say I was 15. And so I started lifting, loved it, and started taking classes, love that. And I was working at Cinnabon, of all places, like not a healthy thing. And thankfully, my manager was really mean. So I quit Cinnabon and I applied at the gym and they hired me. And I fell in love with it and did that for the last few years of high school, came to the University of Florida. And while I was in undergrad, I worked on a 5-star cruise ship, traveled throughout all of Scandinavia, Russia, teaching fitness globally, doing presentations off the ship. And then when I came back from the ship to UF, there was a television producer casting for a fitness TV show. So I auditioned, and that really changed the forecast for me because I had been accustomed to this group classroom, like the typical fitness instructor stuff, which was wonderful. But when I started working in television, I realized that my skills were transferable because not everybody who can do something in person can do it to a camera. But thankfully, I had that skill. And then the world started opening up to me because when I was teaching classes at a gym, I knew who I was helping. But all of a sudden, strangers started approaching saying, are you Fitz? And I'd say, yeah. And they'd say, I love you. I watch your show all the time. I work out with you. I've lost 17 pounds or my back doesn't hurt. And I'd think, oh my gosh, I got to help strangers. And that was absolutely addicting to me. Then I started writing articles and I started to get letters from people around the country saying that I helped them too. And I was addicted. So I ended up getting my master's in exercise sports sciences. And I have had my foot on the gas ever since. And I am even more in love with this opportunity to help people live better and longer than I ever have been. It's who I am. It's my mission. And I thank you for giving me your listeners so I can hopefully help them too.
So, how did those experiences change the way you listen to your body and understand healing?
So interesting. Even though we were sporty as kids, I wasn't very healthy. I mean, I didn't have the nutrition part down pat. I was overweight. I'm 40 something pounds less today than I was when I was 18, 19. And I had an eating disorder. I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing it all right. And so fortunately, I was able to convince myself out of the eating disorder in my freshman year, realizing that I was a good person and probably none of my friends chose me because of my thighs or whatever. And so I was going to stop brutalizing myself and be kinder and just work on being healthy and still try to be that nice, energetic, helpful person that I was. That kind of empathy there, knowing what others are going through when they are disgusted with certain parts of their health or their physicality. And I love people. I don't think there's any room for beating yourself up. In fact, for me, it's a huge mission to get people to change the voice in their head. If that voice in your head stops telling you you can't, stops telling you you're stupid or fat or this or that, whatever, and that voice in your head starts talking you up and telling you how capable you are. Those things make all the difference in the world. And when I was going through cancer care, I'm sure we'll touch on that, but that voice in my head, she was the thing that got me through it. I was so afraid, and I'm afraid of every needle. And they probably stuck me with 400 needles at least. And I had to constantly be in scary situations. But the voice in my head, man, she had my back. She was my best friend. She was saying, no, you can do hard things. You've built a global business. You've raised great kids. You used to be a competitive kickboxer. You can do this. And so because she was so encouraging, I was able to get through it and get to that finish line and keep going. And so, if more people woke up and looked in the mirror, I was like, hot damn, you know what? You're not perfect. Perfect's boring, but you are great because of these reasons. And let's take care of you. So, yeah, long answer to your short question, but the voice in your head.
I love that. You speak often about the connection between the physical and mental health. In your experience, how does emotional stress show up in the body?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's interesting. I have great compassion for those who are clinically depressed. Like they can't help it. And it's a weight they carry all the time. I couldn't imagine. I'm a bright sider naturally. naturally. I just wake up happy. And it's probably annoying to some people, but I am. However, sometimes I just wake up with that weight in my chest and it's toxic. It hurts. It's nauseating. It makes you feel like the sky is falling for no reason. So I have steps that I know there are things that will express that toxic energy. Exercise. Exercise is not just my saving grace. If you look at any mental health article, study, whatever, all of it says, every single last study will tell you that exercise is a solution for anxiety and depression. And so exercise can come in any form, whether you're lifting weights or you're cycling or you're swimming or you're dancing in the kitchen with your kids, whatever. Moving your body is proven to help relieve stress. And so I have a list of about 5 things that I go to. For me, it's exercise, number one, any sort, get outside, so fresh air. And that's also proven to be a factor that helps the many. And then I've got other things that are specific to me. I've got animals, my dogs, your possum. It doesn't matter. Animals make me feel good. If I'm sad, I need an animal. I love music and I choose happy music. If you're sad, folks, do not play the Philadelphia soundtrack. Instead, put on some Beyonce or some Kiss or something that's going to intentionally lift you up. It's okay to feel sad. It's not okay to bask in it. Do not bask in grief. If you can be your lifeline, if you can be that first responder who says, the alarms have gone off, I feel stressed, I feel sad, well, I'm going to send in the emergency resources to help me. If I'm outside and I'm exercising and I'm with my dogs and there's fun music on, well, all of a sudden I start to forget about those yucky feelings that I woke up with. And then, lastly, for me, it's just my hobbies. I play guitar and I like to write and whatever. But people should have a top 5 list, and what makes you happy, and you instantly go to those things. You have that negative feeling going on, the stress, anxiety, whatever you want to call it. You start helping yourself. You're like, okay, I'm going to go to number 1, exercise. Number 2, I'm going to go to this. And you can dig yourself out of a hole. And ideally, you can do it without medication. I don't think all medications are bad, but I do think there's a lot of people that are over medicated. Use your own free will to lift your own spirits if you can.
I couldn't agree more, and I think sometimes people get into a rut of they get comfortable in their negativity, right? And sometimes it's comfortable there, right? So and they feel like that it is the way it is and that's the way it's always going to be, but that's simply not true. There's so many things that we can choose from in our lives that can lift us up, right? So I like to say surround yourself with the things that will only lift you higher, right? And be the person that's always the one that you can lift another person up. So
Well,
I love that.
it's interesting, and I talk about this in the new book, and some people get their best attention, and I put the quotation marks about that, from their misery. They show up to work and they're, oh, the traffic. Can you believe there was traffic? Well, yeah, there's freaking traffic every day. I can believe it. There's traffic. You don't need to come and rain the misery traffic parade on everybody in your office. Honestly, when I sit in traffic, I think, well, it's not cancer. Right? Like I'm like, thankfully, I'm not the person in the accident up ahead that caused this traffic jam. So there's always a perspective. And then some people, they are constantly getting online and everybody pray for me. I sprained my ankle, or, oh, can you believe that? Stop. When you go on your negative Nancy rants, you're dragging everybody else down. And then note this, that's what they think of you. They look at you and they think you are a source of misery. They will stop inviting you out for fun events. They will stop including you in conversations. And so you're dragging other people down when you spend your life venting about the atrocities at your grocery store, or you're dragging yourself down because those people are going to start avoiding you. And so again, it's talking yourself up. It's choosing, traffic sucks, but I did hear a funny joke on talk radio and I'm going to come in and share that or something. Just make a different decision and all of a sudden everything in your life will be rosier.
I agree that it's all about perspective, and when you're in traffic, instead of thinking, oh, this is so terrible that you're in traffic, you could think, Well, thank God that there's traffic because maybe if the traffic had been clear, I could have been in the accident far ahead, right? So you can
Right.
always like flip the script in your head of the way that you're looking at a situation. There's a million different angles to look at, right? And so it's
Absolutely.
really empowering when you realize that you can make up those rules in your mind of how you're going to reach your day, how you're going to do the next thing, how you're going to approach your life.
Yeah.
So
And,
it's
and
it's
And
yeah.
these are learned behaviors. I mean, I call myself a bright sider. I'm just a bright sider, right? You can learn to be a bright sider. You can be a real miserable man and start these habits where something happens, it starts to tick you off, and then you choose, okay, well, what is the bright side? What's the perspective here? I tell you, when I was diagnosed with cancer, it's before that, I used to say, well, it's not cancer, right? That was my perspective that would keep me from being upset or cranky or whatever. And then all of a sudden it was cancer. And I thought, uh-oh, the one thing I've been grateful for, now it's come for me. Now it's cancer. Is this my time to freak out and be a miserable woman? And then I just had this epiphany. I live in Gainesville, where the University of Florida has a pediatric oncology unit just a few miles from my home. And I thought, well, how lucky am I to be a grown up with cancer? Right? All of a sudden, I was just like, well, this isn't so bad because I'm not a baby with cancer and it's not my kids with cancer. And so, all right, I can do this. And mind you, it sucked. It was horrible. It was awful, but I made the best. I never once had a why me moment. And again, those are the things that carry a patient struggling through legitimate hardships to the end, get you through it, and make sure the days, even the worst days, have some sunshine in them.
What do you see happen when people ignore early signals from their body for too long?
Terribly. I mean, we see people drop dead all the time, heart attacks. I mean, women, heart disease is the number one killer of women. Women don't know that. They think, "Oh, it's just the flu. I don't need to go to the doctor." Oh, it's constant breathlessness, and they don't respond to that. And they can't go to the doctor because they have to take care of their kids. Okay, well, don't take care of this. And a week later, your children will have no mother. Men, erectile dysfunction, for example, they think that's an issue with their wang. And maybe it could be. Quite often, it's an issue with their cardiovascular system. High cholesterol clogs your arteries. The penile artery is an artery, just like the other ones running through your body. And when your wing stops working, all of a sudden, that's a sign that's, hey, telling you you might have cardiac disease. How many men die of heart attacks when their penis was telling them something's wrong? There's a red flag. So we have to respond to these little symptoms. And oh gosh, I had breast cancer. I found a lump pretty quickly. 6 weeks after my clean mammogram, I had a sizey lump. I could have ignored it. I didn't. Thankfully, I went straight in. It had already spread to my lymph nodes. So it's 6 weeks. It went from nothing to tumor that has already spread to my lymph nodes. If I had waited another month, I think it probably would have hit my lungs or brain. That's where breast cancer goes. I'm pretty confident if I had waited another month, I wouldn't be here. Since that diagnosis for me, I've written the Cancer Comeback series, 3 different books. And how many people have come out of the woodwork and said, my wife, my sister, my daughter had the same cancer as you. And she found a lump and she was too afraid to go to the doctor. And so if and when you ignore symptoms, at worst, you die and it's a painful, miserable death, or you could lose a limb. Diabetics, they need to pay attention to all these symptoms. So yeah, red flags. That's your body saying, help, please get me the help I need. And hopefully, if you address things quickly, the crisis isn't so critical and you can get quick relief without it escalating to something worse.
How do you help someone begin reconnecting with their body if they've learned to override it for years?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wrote the book. That's how I help. Podcast, it's just about getting people started. I think a lot of people just really, there's a couple things. Either they don't have a real respect for their health. That's true. That's real. They're more comfortable pointing the fingers, blaming other people for their poor health than they are looking in the mirror and saying, you're responsible. Let's find some support. Let's take some action. But yeah, people just have to start having respect for the longevity that is possible, right? I think when you know what's what's possible for yourself, then you're more willing to take action.
You've said that people often have more influence over their quality of life than they realize. How do you talk about that idea without it turning into pressure or self blame?
Well, I'd rather talk science, so I encourage people look in the mirror, it's chapter 2 is all look in the mirror, strip down, get naked, full blown, just you and your mirror. I want you to start by making a list of 5 things you love. You love your sparkling eyes and your strong quads or your strong, whatever it is. And then make a list of 5 things you'd like to improve on. And know that only you have the capacity to improve on those things. The blame game, too many people are blaming everything but themselves, right? Oh, I'm overweight because my parents are overweight. You are not genetically overweight. You are overweight because you have adopted their terrible habits. So I'm sorry your parents did not teach you how to move your body properly and nourish your body properly. They didn't know any better, probably. I know my parents didn't know fully what they were doing. I paid the consequences until I figured out the right way to do things. But if there's something you don't like about your body, well, don't blame anybody else. Know that you did that and you have the power to change. Right. So I'm not responsible for your body. Sarah, you're not responsible for anybody's body. That would be crazy. And nobody comes over to our face and jacks up our jaw and shoves negative food in there or unhealthy food or alcohol or whatever, soda. Right. So we are making these choices every day. And I think once we take full responsibility for our body, our mind as it is, then only then we can take full responsibility to make the changes. And so, too many people are like, Judgy, you're harsh. I would never pull a punch when talking to you about health because I care too deeply. And so I actually get appreciation. People say, thank you for your brutal honesty. And I feel like as your, friendly neighborhood fitness expert, it's important that I tell you the truth, and I don't set goals for people. I never say, you need to lose 40 pounds and you need to lift your butt, or I don't do that. But when it comes to reality checks, happy to come down and come down hard. You are not overweight because your parents are overweight. You are overweight because you have stuffed your face too much. You have eaten too much of the wrong things and you have not exercised enough. You haven't prioritized your sleep and you're shedding every excuse in the book. So yeah, I'd rather talk science because science, there's actions to that. And if you do the things I tell you to do, you will physically and mentally get to the places you want to go.
Absolutely. We have to be honest because knowledge is power. And when we are not brutally honest, like you said, right, then we're taking away people's power by not giving them the information. Because if you can know better, you can do better. But if you don't know better and people are just sugarcoating everything around you, how are you going to make change from there? How are you going to improve, right?
It boggles my mind how many people I deal with that are morbidly obese. I mean, gosh, I care so deeply. Like personally consult with people for free that I just am worried about. If you're in the morbid obese category, it's like walking around with a gun to your head. Something needs to be done, right? I can't tell you how many of these folks I support go to the doctor and the doctor's like, well, your blood work looks good, so you're free to go. And I think, oh, doctor, stop. You tell these people they have got an invisible gun to their head and they're going to lose everything they work for, everything, every person of value to them, unless they make change. And doctors have such incredible power to convince people. If your doctor looks you in the eye and says, buddy, you're not going to make it 2 more years unless you take action, that patient is far more likely to take action. And so I love everybody so hard, and I try to make fitness fun and whatever, but I will poke you in the chest. I will give it to you hard because I care. And if you walk away thinking I'm a jerk, that's on you. But yeah, people need to hear it. And folks, if you're thinking I'm talking to you, you bet your butt I am talking to you. Maybe there's a reason you turn on this podcast and you heard this bossy lady coming to tell you that you need to stop making excuses and take action because again, it's only your life, right? You should put it in the priority category.
Absolutely. Many people believe progress only comes from pushing harder. What role do rest and recovery actually play in strength and resilience?
Well, yeah. And so I fully support pushing harder. In fact, my goal for folks is to get 1% better every day. And so you can't be a newcomer at the gym and then turn into a bodybuilder by tomorrow, nor do you probably even want to. And so your goal is to challenge your body. If you only do the same thing all the time. You do that same exact workout, same exact walk, whatever. You put that same exact workout plus age and you will get worse, not better. You won't even stay the same. Because of the aging process, you will regress. So challenging your body is always a smart decision to make. But yeah, you gotta sleep. Hey, sleepy people, they do not show up at the gym. If they do a half-assed workout. They make terrible decisions with food. They often drink alcohol or take sedatives to get through the sleep, which screws with their digestive system, which again starts this vicious cycle of getting them to not exercise and do the right thing. So yeah, you should play hard and you should rest harder. I'm a huge fan of naps. I am a professional napper. I have a few spots where I can lie down. I can get 20 minutes. That will change my world. It's like plugging in your phone, and you're almost on E and you plug it in, you get to 40%. All of a sudden, yay, my phone is 40%. I am that girl. 20-minute naps go a long way. And again, nourishment, sometimes just taking a freaking day off. Rest is necessary. And of course, earn it. Earn it.
As someone who's lived through cancer, what do you wish people understood about healing that often gets overlooked?
Yeah. So again, statistical evidence that if you exercise and pursue as much quality nutrition during your treatment, you are more likely to hit remission, less likely to have a recurrence. And so sometimes folks get diagnosed and they instantly say, well, I got to stop exercising and I can't do any of this. No, when you are hurt, when you are sick, doesn't matter what disease or what injury, lean into your health. Health matters more than ever. And in fact, you're diagnosed with Parkinson's or you get hit by a bus. The second that happens, all you wish for is health. Like right now, we might be wishing for concert tickets or a great car or whatever. When you get a diagnosis or an injury, all of a sudden, all you want is health. Nothing shines a light on that necessity more than trauma. Prepare your body to do battle today because you never know when illness or injury will strike. And if you pursue exercise and nutrition and sleep before and during, you are so much more likely to recover and heal quickly. It's interesting. People look at me now and it's hard for them to understand how sick I was, right? So I hit the point, even, gosh, I was walking the walk, right? I was still exercising as much as I could. I was still eating as well as I could, but I had 15 months of chemotherapy. I had 30 something rounds of radiation. I had surgery. I had all the things. And the chemo specifically was super brutal. So it was like having a stomach bug, a flu every day for that long. And so I got to a point where, I was bald and gray and I had lost a lot of weight. And my mother, she came in and she started yelling, "You need to eat. You look like you're in the Holocaust." And I said, "I know. Thanks, Mom. I'm doing my best." But here's the deal. If I had not continued, even though I was regressing because the treatment was so savage, if I had not exercised and eaten wisely and taken all the measures I did during treatment, it would have been even worse. I wouldn't have just looked like a Holocaust survivor. I might have looked like someone who died from the Holocaust. I might have been hospitalized for a month. I might have had a feeding tube, which makes you more likely for infection. I mean, there's all these things that could have and should have been way worse had I not pursued fitness during my care. And then once I started turning the corner and the mean chemo was getting out of my system, I started baby stepping my way back. It was about getting in the pool and wiggling. I didn't even try to walk or swim. I was like, I'm just gonna wiggle, right? And then eventually I walked a lap the next day and, baby steps. I was so gentle with myself because I did not want to have any setbacks, but I gentled myself 1% better every day. And a little over a year after finishing treatment, I ran the Boston Marathon. I'm as healthy as I've ever been, even comparing me to my 23-year-old self when I was teaching fitness and competitively kickboxing. I put this girl against that girl any day. And there's no marvel. I wasn't bitten by a radioactive spider. I'm just a normal person. I don't have any injections and I don't have any trainers. It's just me doing my best on the regular, like a regular person. And I feel spectacular. So, I never used myself as evidence before. I figured people would look and they'd be like, thin blonde woman, what does she know? Well, you can look at the pictures of me looking like I'm on death's door. And now you can look at the cover of this book and I'm as strong as freaking a girl can be, So if it's possible for me, it's possible for everybody. Everybody has that supercharged version of themselves waiting for them. You just need to make the decision. And again, 1% better every day is all it takes.
Do you think your relationship with your body changed after cancer? And if so, how? What helped you rebuild trust in your body again?
I don't think it changed. I think it was reinforced. So I think my attitude about my body certainly changed in college when I stopped beating myself up and stopped with the eating disorder. But yeah, watching myself waste away, I thought, whoa, this fitness thing is very important. Like all the things I'd been preaching my whole life, and even my doctor had said that. He goes, you know, you're doing great. At one point, I told him, I said, Dr. Gordon, I am not doing great. I'm a basket case. Everything's wrong with me. He goes, I'm not saying you haven't suffered, but your commitment to fitness has prevented. I still traveled the country. I hosted 30 something marathon or running events during that time, and 30 trips on an airplane out of Gainesville with all the sickness. I just chose it. And he said, you wouldn't have been able to do that without fitness. And so, yeah, it's just all the joy and love I had for fitness carried me through and brought me out. And I'm just even more excited about it. That's it. I'm probably even more annoying about fitness. Sorry to your listeners, hashtag not sorry, but I've seen it work miracles for myself. And the other thing is that too many people out there are looking for actual like miracles. There is no nutrition store where you can go in there and buy a box or a container of powder and it will solve your issues. It doesn't exist. I don't even know why they call them nutrition stores. I'm going to go in there and punch all the people in the face who are selling that garbage. You don't need anything that doesn't really come from the grocery store. If you've got a doctor who's looked at your blood work and they're prescribing something, fine. You can work with a dietitian over those things, but there is no magic cure. It's just 1% better physically every day. And then you choosing to eat the right amount of the right foods for the size you want to be, get the sleep. Call that a miracle if you want.
If someone listening today wanted to make one small, compassionate change that supports their body and their nervous system, where would you suggest that they begin?
I would say strength training immediately. Strength training is a fountain of youth. It will not only make your your muscles stronger, more powerful. That's your ability to lift, press, push, pull against resistance, lift your body, carry the groceries, slam the trunk, carry grandkids, whatever. Strength training is necessary. It's also the secret to avoiding fragile bones, osteopenia, osteoporosis. And that's one of the reasons we see so many of our seniors either losing their lives or breaking the hips and the skull fractures and so forth. I think the generation before us was not encouraged to strength train. I know my mother wasn't, and she's paying the price for it. So strength train, men and women, it will make a dramatic difference in your energy, in your resilience, in your capability, in your functionality, the way you stand, the way you look and feel, your confidence. Strength training, that's a 10 on a 10 as far as the ability to change your world. And it doesn't have to go be you powerlifting. Strength training could be push-ups on your knees and lunges and crunches, just things that challenge all of your muscles. If it works for you, it works for me.
I'd like to ask you, I like to set aside if you could give one daily practice that you would recommend to our listeners that we encourage them to try every day over the next 7 days, what would that be?
Okay, well, this is going to be simple and fun. Every single person can do it as long as you have, well, even one leg. I want you to brush your teeth while standing on one foot. And so get in the habit of brushing your teeth while standing on one foot. That is balance training right there. And the reason we do balance training is so we don't fall down. That simple effort of brushing your teeth on one foot, and you can do 20 seconds on one side, 20 seconds on the other. You can even floss. You can even stand in lines at the grocery store on one foot, but that could extend your life by infinite amount of years. Who knows? Just don't fall down. So balance training.
And as we come to a close, what's one message you'd like our listeners to carry with them after hearing our conversation today?
Yeah, that they are so much more capable than they think they are, and there is this supercharged version of themselves just waiting for them to start taking action. You can get better, you can do better, and you should.
And for all of our listeners out there, I will have information in our show notes for Fitz's books and websites and all of the things that she will be sharing with me. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Neuroalchemy. If something you heard today was helpful for you, or you think this conversation could support a friend or a family member, please like, share, and subscribe to this episode. That simple act helps these conversations reach the people who may need to hear them the most. Until next time, take gentle care of your mind, your body, and your inner world. Bye for now.